thought you fellow nerds might find this interesting. I was really curious on the catchers in the league right now. So I just did some simple exports and did the main categories here and just kind of did some averages so we can kind of take a peek at how bad offensively the catchers have gotten, which I really like. I think that's a lot more realistic than in the old games. The catchers really, once you get in the future, I feel like the real guys are a little bit overpowered. So once you get to the fictional guys, now that we're almost 20 years in the future, the only three real ones left are Romo and I think Antonio Gomez is real. And then I think Ivan Herrera is real, and then Kyle Teal. That would be the only four, I guess, that are real, and all the other ones would be generated guys. So as you can see here, underneath here in the blue table, I have all 54 catchers that played at least 50 plate appearances this season in this previous season in FTD. So 54 guys that are legit catchers. So each team, just over two. And not quite two. I guess some teams had some injuries and rotated 3 or 4 guys. But the top 54, pretty close to 2 per team. And we'll see the averages here. So the average age is actually 30, which is crazy. That's pretty old. Catchers really mature later than pretty much any other position. So that's kind of neat. The average contact is 44. The average power is 43. The average eye is 48. The average ability is actually 60. I thought it might be 55 or so. Average catcher arms, 51. Catcher defense, 55. Kind of just averaging these two out together a little bit. And then you can see the average WOBA and on-base percentage are 26 and 28%, which is even lower than I thought. Like, I guess 280, I thought it maybe be like 295 or so, so that's really bad. But it makes sense when they only have 44 contact average. The average guy hit 5 home runs per 325 plate appearances, so it kind of averaged out to almost 10 over like a full season worth of games, over 162. The average WRC plus is 71. And so up above, I highlighted the top 22 guys based on WAR. So I did the 2 main categories. Batter runs is really good stat to go by. It goes by the league average being 0. So the catcher average is actually only minus 8.1. So they're saying they're 8 runs worse than the average position for league, or the average player in the league offensively. So you're worth like almost a negative WAR offensively is the average. About 10 runs would be 1 WAR. So the average top 22 goes down to minus 4. So you're still minus 4 with the bat. So anything above minus 4, you're a plus offensive catcher. So that would highlight these top 10 as the top, as the guys that are above average offensively out of the 54 catchers. So just 10, but it just is the way it's weighed, I guess. It's just these are just the top 22 WAR guys. So there'd be some heavy offense, bad defensive guys there below. But as you can see, the top offensive guys, Sierra, Hogan, Castillo, you can see it here in the ratings, the green being high. Nunez has the elite eye. Little performed very well for his ratings, probably a tad above average. Boris has the 55 eye. And then everyone else kind of has one key category the higher you get, and then you start to get 2 when you get to the top guys. And then as you can see, Sierra is just in a class of his own. He's worth plus 13.5 offensive runs compared to the league average, and the league average for catchers minus 4. So it's actually about plus 17 above average compared to the average catcher. And then Hogan and Castillo are next at 8.8 and 8.8, which is about 12 runs, almost 13 runs better than the league average for catcher. And then, that's just better than, the league average catcher, is minus 8. So that would actually, you'd add that to this total. So you say that Sierra's actually worth plus 22, almost 2.2 WAR, just pure offensively compared to the average catcher in FTD. And then when you get to defensive, this is just frame runs. This isn't all defensive runs, but because that doesn't include like the zone range in the air and the pass balls. That's why you get a little different numbers on the WAR numbers. But defensive frame runs are pretty important. And so you can see here that the average is plus 5.5 out of all the top guys, the top 22 guys. So the best framer is actually Sierra and Esquivel, the guy on my team with 80 ability. You can see this is really strongly correlated to ability. Anyone that has green ability is in the top like 13 here. And then the 60s are all grouped up together along with Little here. And then it seems like Little really outperformed his rating, so I don't know if he's better than my scout thinks or if he just had a really good season. And then you see all the low guys at the bottom here. But yeah, you can see the framing runs. The league average for the top guys 5.5, and you see again Esquivel, Sierra plus 15. So it just shows really all this data, how much of a class of Sierra is in his own. He's a 28 because this, what I did here is I just added these two together. So added the offensive value and the framing value. Again, the framing value is not all the defensive value, but I didn't want to go to like too insane for this. So I just kind of did like the pretty much the best spirometer for like the framing's pretty important. But yeah, if you really want to get into it, you could do pass ball percentage and all that. But for this one, it was pretty, I thought it'd be close enough to do offensive value with the batter runs compared to the frame runs, and then adding them together. So again, 28 is insane. Next highest ranked catcher, you have Nunez, who's like a -2, which is still above average offensively for a catcher. Well above average. The average is -8, so he's still 6 runs better than the average catcher, but his defense is way above. So he's number 2 at almost +10 value. And then Hogan, Castillo coming out at like 8 and 7. And so the one surprise for me was Boris being this high. I knew Boris was pretty good, like a top 15 catcher, but based on the fact that he only has 317 plate appearances, and everyone else here is like, close to 500. A few guys, Gutierrez 167 is insane. I just noticed that. So he's probably the best defensive catcher by plate appearance there. Right up there with the Esquivel, who's pretty much double the plate appearances and about double the WAR, so pretty close there. But yeah, you have to say Boris is already like a top 8 catcher for sure, because he's above average offensively and he's really above average defensively, in the top 10 both offense and defensively as a catcher. So yeah, he's probably about 6th or 7th best catcher. I think Romo would be a little higher if you factor in his defense being so high. The framing's really good, but I think the elite 75 rated defense would push him even higher. So if I really had to rank them, I'd probably say it goes like Sierra, Nunez, Romo, and then it really might be Boris right next. But again, he's young and small sample size. Teal's proved it year after year after year. So you probably put Teal there out of respect as like the 3rd or 4th best catcher. And then you'd probably have to go Merrill. Merrill's contact's a little low, but he has so much power and defense. But yeah, it's an interesting group after that. Then you have every guy kind of below is just like really good at like one certain thing. So Esquivel and Gutierrez are like pure defensive guys. Diaz has got all the power with the catchers, 24 home runs, and then Merrill. So really, I think like I said, if you were just ranking the catchers, you'd really go. I think Hogan would have to be up there too. So Sierra, Nunez, Romo, Hogan, Boris, and Teal, and then probably Esquivel just because he's so elite defensively and framing. But his offense is pretty bad, so maybe he really is slot. Probably what this list says, probably like 10 or 12th. This guy's really nice. Seattle's other catcher, too. Really good framer. So, yeah, you have some really interesting results here. But the main takeaway I got is just how good Sierra is compared to everybody, and Boris being quite a bit better. So, really interesting list. I really love catcher position. I just thought you guys might find this interesting, some of these results. So, that's it for this episode.